Hello everyone, good morning. Myself Muralidhara Reddy, I'm a DevOps consultant and solution architect. In this video, we are going to discussing 30 days of free AWS Zero to Hero course announcement. In this particular 30 days of AWS Zero to Hero, what are the topics I'm going to cover? We can discuss now. From tomorrow onwards, I will be published that AWS day by day course. Okay. Let's see that. For that one, we have a tech with Murali GitHub repository, and here we can go with repositories here, and then here you can see that AWS Zero to Hero. I have prepared that GitHub repository, README file, everything, day 1 to day 30, and then now we are going to discussing what are the topics I'm going to cover in this particular 30 days of series. Okay. First of all, before going to learn this AWS Zero to Hero series, please you should be having Windows or Mac laptop. And second thing is you should be basic idea about Linux. If you are not aware, please have a look our Tech with Murali YouTube channel. So there I have already uploaded the Linux basic commands as well. Okay, clear, right? Fine. And coming to that, in the day one session, I'm going to discussing about AWS overview. In this here, I'm going to discussing cloud computing, benefits of using cloud computing, what are the types of cloud computing, and also what are the types of cloud services, what is AWS, what are the advantages of using AWS, and what are the drawback of using AWS, and also AWS global infrastructure, and also what are the regions and available zones, where exactly will be use it, and also I'm going to discussing about creation of AWS account. Once you complete this day one, you will get to know what exactly cloud and how do what AWS, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, how do we create that AWS account, what are the regions and available zones. Okay, and coming to the day two, here we are going to discussing about EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. Here we have a different topics available in the EC2. That's why I have divided two parts. In the part one, I'm going to discussing about what is EC2, what are the features of EC2 and also instance types, and how do we create the Linux, and also how do we download putty gen, how do we convert PEM to PPK, how do we connect our Linux server, and also how do we create the Windows server and connect the particular Windows server, and also how do we create the AMI from the particular EC2 instance. Okay, in this particular day two, we will be discussing about EC2 overview and the instance types, creation of both Windows and Linux, and how do we connect, we are going to discuss it. And coming to the day three, we are going to discussing about how do we create the Ubuntu EC2 instance. Remember guys, in the real time, usually majorly will be used, one is Amazon Linux, second thing is Windows, but some of the project they may use Ubuntu as well. That's why I'm covering Ubuntu as also. How do we create and how do we connect that Ubuntu server, and what is the Elastic IP, how do we attach that particular Elastic IP to the EC2 instance, and also what is secret group, where exactly will be use it, and how do we attach that particular secret group to the EC2 instance. What is the difference between spot instances, on demand, and saving plans, reserved instances, dedicated host, schedule instances, and also capacity reservations. In this right, you will get to know what exactly will be used in the real time. Okay, and also how do we raise the support ticket with AWS? Remember, this is one of the most important. Depends on this one also, they can easy to know whether you really worked or not. Because if something happen, we are not able to find the issue, then what we will do, right? We will be raise the ticket with AWS team. So that process I have showcased, and also how do we increase the service quota? Something example in the AWS IAM, we have IAM goal, we can attach maximum default, we can attach 10 policies. But if you want to be add more policies, what you have to do? You need to increase that. Quota. There we can use service quota. We can increase the specific policies into the specific what is the role. Okay, and also what is the metadata and user data. Once you complete this particular day one, day two, and day three, you will get to know how exactly work EC2, where exactly will be involving. Okay, everything will get to know. Okay, clear, right? And coming to the next EBS. EBS is nothing but Elastic Block Storage. Here, we are going to discussing about what is the EBS, what are the features of EBS, and what are the types of EBS volumes available. How do we attach that EBS volume to the EC2 instance, and how do we increase? Example, we have EBS volume. if you want to increase the size, how do we do? And for the existing Linux EC2 instance, and also how do we attach that for Windows and Linux, and how do we increase that the particular volume size as well? And also how do we change that volume type from example GPT to GP3, everything. Remember, this is one of the backbone of EC2. The reason when you create the EC2, we always choose that EBS volume. We'll be create the separate EBS volume. For example, in the Windows C drive, D drive, similar to in the Linux also will be attached the multiple uh, EBS volumes. Okay, and coming to that day 5, we are going to discussing about EBS snapshot. Here we will be discussing about what is the snapshot, what is the usage of snapshot, and how do we create the snapshot from EC2 instance, how do we create the snapshot from EBS volume, and how do we create the TMA from snapshot, and also how do we create the EBS volume from snapshot, and also we can discuss about what are the options available in the particular snapshot, and also we will be discussing how do we delete the TMA snapshot and EBS volume, everything. Once you complete this one, you will get to know how do we take the snapshot of the particular either EC2 instance or from the particular EBS volume, everything. Okay, clear, right? Fine. And coming to that IAM. Remember, in the AWS, the backbone is IAM. When it comes to the DevOps, right, we backbone is Jenkins. Similar to in AWS also, AWS IAM is the backbone. Okay, and here we discussed about what is the IAM, what are the features providing, what are the user, what is the group, what is the how do we create the users and groups, what are the types of policies available, what are the uses of that one, how do we use that AWS CLI, how do we configure, what is the profile concept, and also what is exactly IAM role, and how do we attach that particular IAM role to the EC2 instance. And also we discuss about root account versus IAM user, and how do we maintain that IAM password policy. Okay, and also multi-factor authentication for setting for our root account. Okay, what is the IAM best practice, how do we follow? Once you complete this IAM, you will get to know how exactly it will work, and how do we attach the specific policies, and how do we restrict the permissions to the specific role or user, okay, group. And right, clear it? Fine. And coming to that here, the day 7, we are going to discussing about AWS ASG, auto scaling group. Here we are going to discussing about what is ASG, what are the benefits of using ASG, and also remember in the auto scaling group we have two things. When you create the auto scaling group, we have to be first you have to be create that launch configuration or launch template. Usually launch configuration, it is already outdated, but the still what I'm why I'm covering here. Let's take example. You are moving from one technology to another technology. You may mention like 5 years of experience or 10 years of experience. During that time, what you have to do is they may ask the questions related to launch configuration. Remember, when you create a new AWS account, this launch configuration option not available. If there is an existing account, it will be available. Okay, that's why I have covered this launch configuration, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, and how do we create the launch configuration, and also what is launch template, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, and also how do we create the launch template as well. Okay, and also we discussed about what is the difference between a launch template and launch configuration, and also how do we create the auto scaling group using launch configuration and also launch template as well. How do we enable the CloudWatch Montic for auto scaling group, how do we delete this one. Once you complete this auto scaling group, you will get to know, okay, auto scaling group will be used for specific purpose, and how do we use in the real time, what is the best approach, everything will get to know. Okay, any questions now? We are going to discussing about ELB also. In the ELB also, we do have multiple topics. That's why I have divided 2 parts. In the part 1, we are going to discussing about ELB and what are the benefits, and how do we create the classic load balancer, and how do we create the classic load balancer, and also what is the target group listeners, and also how do we create the target group. Everything we have covered here. Here, remember, classic load balancer, usually when you create the new load balancer, we are not creating. But the thing is, you should be aware of what is the how do we create the classic load balancer, what is the drawback of using classic load balancer, why we are going with other load balancers. That's why. And also in interview level also, they may ask the question related to classic load balancer. Okay. And also we discussed about application load balancer, what are the benefits of using, how do we create, how do we attach that particular application load balance to the existing or new ALB, so new auto scaling group. Okay, and also we discussed about network NLB, network load balancer. What are the benefits of using network load balancer? How do we create and what is the difference between network load balancer and application load balancer, and how do we attach that particular network load balance to that auto scaling group? Once you complete this ELB related one, you will get to know how do we manage, how it will work, how do we attach that auto scaling group, target groups, everything. Okay, any questions now? Fine. And coming to the S3 also I have divided two parts because we have a multiple topic. That's why. And here we can see that what is the S3 storage, simple storage service, and what are the buckets and objects, and also what are the types of storage classes available, and how do we create that S3 bucket, how do we upload that objects to the S3 bucket using either AWS console or AWS CLI. And also we do discussing about S3 versioning and enabling it. And also we do discuss about a bucket policy. How do we work with bucket policy? How do we apply those policies? Okay, and also bucket life cycles, where exactly we'll be using, and how do we deploy the static website on the AWS S3. Usually this is we won't use much, but at interview level they may ask question. That's why I have covered here. And then we do discuss about pre-signed URL, where exactly we will be using. How do we create that? And also how do we encrypt that server-side encryption for that particular S3 buckets. And then finally, how do we delete the particular S3 bucket as well. Okay, once you complete this one, you will get to know where exactly will be used the S3 bucket and how do we manage, how do we encrypt everything. Okay, clear. And coming to that VPC, in the VPC, we do have multiple topics. That's why I have divided four parts. Okay, here first thing we are going to discuss about what is VPC, what are the features of VPC, and what is CADR, how do we choose the CADR, and IPv4 and IPv6, and the subnets, what are the types of subnets available. There are different types of subnets available in the real time. I have covered everything. And also subnet sizing and subnet routing, route table, what are the components available, and what is the IGW, and also we discussed about default VPC, because when you create the AWS account, during that time you will get the default VPC, right? The particular default VPC I have covered. Once you understand this default VPC, you will get to know what are the drawbacks so that you can easy to understand. Okay, when why we are going to create the customized VPC. Okay, clear, right? And coming to that, here we do discuss about customized VPC and what is the difference between NAT gateway and NAT instance, and how do we create the NAT instance, NAT gateway. And also we do discuss about network ACL security group, what is the difference between network ACL and security group as well. Okay, and also how do we enable that VPC flow logs and store it in the either S3 and CloudWatch. How do we troubleshoot that VPC flow logs? Everything we have covered. And then you can come down here. Here we can see that and what are the options available in the specific VPC, and what is the DHCP option set. Okay, what are the difference? What are the uses of DNS hostname, DNS resolution, and VPC endpoints also we have covered. And how do we create that gateway endpoint for the specific S3? And also what are the uses of prefix list, and what is the ENA, where exactly will be used the ENA. Once we done, how do we delete that our VPC as well? Okay, clear, right? Again, I'm repeating, default VPC, we won't be use it. We always use the customized VPC. Okay, that's why what I did, right? I also showcase that customized VPC, how do we create everything. Any questions here? Any questions? Yeah, next thing is VPC peering. This is one of the most important. The reason I'm telling, in the VPC, when you create the new VPC or existing VPC, default isolated. It means if you have two different VPC, right, it won't be communicate. But some of the reasons, right, in the real time, we may need to set up the communication from dev to dev, dev to QA, depends on use cases. Then what you have to do, right, you should be aware, how do we do that? How do we achieve that? That's why you should be aware of VPC peering. And there we discussed about what is the VPC peering, what are the advantages of using VPC peering, what are the types of VPC peering. There are two types. One is intra-region and inter-region. In the intra-region, VPC in the same AWS account, how do we do? In the different AWS account, how do we do? Inter-region VPC peering in the same AWS account and different AWS account, how do we set up that? Everything we have covered. Remember, only know the VPC, there is no use. The reason interview level, they may ask question, how do we set up the communication between two different VPCs? Then you should be aware at least VPC peering. There are other options also. We have transit gateway, transit VPC, but still you should be at least basic, you should be aware of transit VPC Peering. That's why I have covered here. You should don't miss this particular topic. Okay, clear? Right? Fine. And then come to that CloudWatch and CloudTrail also. What is that CloudWatch and what are the features are providing and how do we create the log group and how do we store that particular VPC flow logs to the CloudWatch group, and also how do we set up that alarm for the specific EC2 instance, and also what is CloudTrail. Okay, what are the types of log events types in the CloudTrail, and also we discussed about how do we send that logs to the S3 bucket. Everything we have discussed. Once you complete this one, if example in the real time, we'll be storing that CloudWatch logs to the VPC logs to the inside the CloudWatch, and also we'll be stored that application related logs inside the CloudWatch. How do we troubleshoot everything we'll get to know, and also CloudTrail related also you will get some idea, and how do we store that particular CloudTrail logs to the S3 bucket, and also how do we troubleshoot in the S3 if in the CloudTrail if something happen. Example, someone is deleted the DynamoDB table. How do we troubleshoot? Everything we'll get to know. Fine. And coming to that ECR, Elastic Container Registry, this is also one of the most important. The reason majority of the applications, example, if you are working one of the organization, there if there is having microservices, right, they will be read the Docker file and they will be generate the Docker images. Those Docker images, they will be stored in the either Docker Hub or AWS ECR. But most trending one currently, right, majority of the organizations are storing the AWS ECR because if they are using the AWS, they will be stored in the AWS ECR instead of storing the Docker Hub. That's why you should be aware what is Docker, AWS ECR, what are the types of repositories available, and what are the components available, and what are the features are providing that AWS ECR, and how do we create that repository, and how do we push the particular documents to AWS ECR, and how do we set up that lifecycle policy as well. And also we discussed about how do we set up the replication between one AWS account to another AWS account or one region to another region. How do we do? Everything we have covered. And coming to that AWS EKS, okay. Here we discussed about what is the AWS EKS, so how AWS EKS works, and how do we install AWS CLI, kubectl, and also how do we create the IAM user, and also how do we create that AWS EKS cluster through AWS console, and how do we connect that particular EKS cluster, and how do we add that particular workloads to the specific AWS EKS cluster, and how do we deploy. Everything we have covered here. Okay, clear, right? Any questions? And then coming to the day 20, we'll be discussing about what is KMS, what are the features and benefits providing the KMS, what are the different types of keys available in the KMS, and how do we create that KMS, and how do we encrypt that particular EBS volume using KMS. Everything we discuss. And also we do discuss about SES, simple email service, how do we create and how do we use it, where exactly we'll be use it. And also we discussed about SNS, how do we create that SNS, how do we set up the notification, and everything we have covered here. Okay, in the day 20. And coming to the day 21, here we discussed about database, that is RDS, Relational Database Service. And remember, you should be aware of how do we create that DB. You don't require to maintain. It means you don't require to log into the inside the DB and create the tables, columns, everything. Everything will be taken care by DBA team only. But you should be aware of how do we create that the particular DB in the AWS RDS. Okay, remember guys, this is mandatory because creating the cluster, RDS cluster, taking care of the DevOps team, managing the DBA team. Okay, some of the projects they may need to maintain DevOps team only for both creation part and also managing our creation of tables, everything, taking care by DevOps team only. Okay, here we discuss about what is RDS, what are the features, what are the subnet group, parameter group, what are the option group, and also we discussed about RDS storage types as well. And also we discussed about MySQL creation part, RDS MySQL, how do we connect you through AWS EC2, how do we install that workbench, using workbench, how do we connect the RDS MySQL cluster, everything we have discussed here. Once you've done this one, you will get to know how do you troubleshoot if something happened, someone is not able to connect that particular RDS cluster, how do we do, how do we troubleshoot, everything we'll get to know. How do we connect different ways. One is I have showcased using EC2 and second one is I have showcased using workbench as well. Okay, fine. And coming to that Route 53, this is also one of the backbone of DevOps, the AWS and DevOps as well. The reason, usually you may practice using, example, you have installed a Jenkins, you may access using Node, the particular public or private IP colon port number, but the reality it is not like that. In the real time, we are always accessing using DNS name only. For that one, you should be aware of Route 53. Here we discussed about what is Route 53, what are the benefits of using Route 53, what are the hosted zones, what are the types of hosted zones available, and how do we create the public hosted zone, what is the difference between public and private hosted zone, okay, and also what are the types of records available, how do we create that policies records, okay, and also we do discuss about how do we create the private hosted zone, how do we configure that query logging for the particular hosted zones, everything we discuss. Once you complete this one, you will get to know how do we manage our DNSs, how do we create that hosted zones, everything, okay, whether it is public or private, depends on use cases, we will be create and manage it, okay. And coming to the ACM, certificate manager, this is also one of the most thing, because when you create any application load balancer, okay, whether it is an application or network load balancer, we always attach this particular ACM only, HTTP purpose, okay. Clear, right? Here we will be discussing about what is ACM, what are the benefits of using ACM, how do we create the ACM, okay, how do we integrate with that particular ACM to the application load balancer. Example I have showcased with application load balancer, then we can access using HTTPS. If you remember, here, if you see here, technologymurali.com, here we can see that HTTPS, right? It means more secure. How it is coming? Because if they deploy in the AWS, if they are using the Route 53, we will be create the ACM. This particular ACM will be attached to the load balancer. Then what you can write, we can access using DNS name like this. Example, technologymurali.com. Okay, clear? And then come to here, web application WAF also we have covered in the day 24. What is WAF, how it will work, WAF, how do we create that particular WAF, and also how do we apply the particular web application firewall for the specific application load balancer, how it will work, how do we enable the locks as well, and also how do we block the specific IP address. Let's take example, someone hitting many times, hacking the application. Then what we can do, right? In the WAF level, we can take the specific IP, we can block that specific one. That one also I have showcased in this particular WAF. Okay, once you complete this one, you will get to know how it will work WAF, how do we manage it, everything, you can do that. And coming to that day 25, we discussed about EFS as well. Especially this EFS will be used for example, Jenkins. When you deploy the Jenkins default path is varlib Jenkins, right? You need to take the particular backup. Okay, how do we do? There are two options. One is you can use that EBS value, you can take the EBS value backup, or you can use EFS, you can take that particular specific path, we can mount it. Okay, clear, right? Even EBS also we can mount it. But the thing is, the main advantage of using EFS, in the EFS, right? In the EFS, it will be entire VPC level it will work. It is not like specific available zone level. But when you use the EBS, it is a specific available zone, specific one only. Example, if you create that EBS value in the 1 year, you should be attaching the 1 year available zone server only. Okay, it won't be work 1B or 1C. Okay, that's why here it won't be suitable when you use the Jenkins. So here we discussed about what is EFS, what are the use cases, and what are the types of EFS storage classes available, and how do we create it, and also how do we mount the particular EFS volumes to the EC2 instance. Everything we have covered here. Okay, clear, right? And coming here, and also we discussed about system manager and secret manager. And here we discussed about what is the system manager, what are the operating system supports, and also what is the SSM agent, how it will work that SSM agent, how do we connect using session manager, what are the parameter store, where exactly will be used the parameter store, and also run command, how do we use it, and also patch manager, using patch manager, how do we patch the particular servers, and also secret manager, where exactly will be used the secret manager in the real time as well. I have covered it. Okay, clear, right? Any questions now? Okay, coming to the 27, this is also one of the most important AWS calculator. Here also I have showcased that what is the AWS calculator and how do we pricing. Okay, how do we create the cost optimization for specific EC2 RDS. There is something S3. Let's take an example. We got the request to pay the so-and-so EC2 instances. Then what you have to do? You need to create that. Cost, and then you need to get the approval from your manager or team lead, then you can proceed it. For that one, what manager or team lead will ask there, hey, can you please give the quotation for the particular servers, how much it will be charged for monthly. Then what you have to do, you can use that AWS calculator. Using this AWS calculator, we can achieve that one. Okay, clear, right? Any questions? Yeah, if you see here in the day 27, I have covered like how do we create that particular AWS RDS for MySQL, we need to get that calculator, and also for that FSH and also EBS volume, SQL servers and also S3 bucket, everything calculation here. Okay, how do we do everything? I have showcased. For example, we got that request from someone. Example, this RDS MySQL related. We got the request from DBA team. Then they have mentioned that the particular RDS instance type, everything. Using this calculator, I have we have created that estimation, and we have provided that estimation to our team lead and manager. Once we get the approval, we'll be create that particular one. Okay, this is also mandatory. You should be aware. For example, I have showcased that multiple example here. I have showcased. Okay, fine. And also you can come down. Next one in the 28, we are going to discussing about billing and the custom management. Okay, this is also one of the most important. The reason we need to be, I mean, let's take example. You have one AWS account. There you need to be review it. You need to set up that notification. If something, it will be reached that $5 or $500, $5,000. You need to get the notification. And also you always review that. How do we review the particular billing? Where exactly we are wasting that cost? Everything we can do it depends on that tool. We will be, if it is not required that particular service, how do we delete everything we have covered here? Okay, how do we set up the bucket, budget as well? Okay, and next one, this is also one of the most important in the 29, day 29, that is directory service. Remember, usually in the directory service, we always use in the AWS side when if they are using the AD, Active Directory. When they are trying to connect the Windows server using AD credentials, then in the particular AWS account, we always create the directory service as well. What is the directory service? What are the directory service options available? How do we create that AWS managed AD? And also how do we, what are the prerequisites we required? And also how do we create the specific one? And how do we deploy the particular EC2 instance? And how do we join the particular AD to the particular Windows server? And also how do we connect using AD credentials? Everything I have showcased in the service. Okay, remember this is also one of the most important. In the real time, we always in the for Windows servers, we always accessing using AD credentials only. Okay, it is not like individual server, individual credentials. We always use the AD credentials. Using that AD credentials, we'll be connect the Windows servers. Okay, and also finally, resume preparation, and also I will be publish that mock interviews each service level. And also interview question and answers as well, I will be provided. Okay, clear, right? This is the 30 days of course. And also along with this 30 days, I'm going to upload these videos as well, real-time use cases and best practices for the specific one. Example, cross-account access using IAM role, okay, Azure role, and also how do we connect that Windows Linux server, multiple ways session manager for both Windows and Linux, and how do we create the customized AMI, what is the purpose of using AMI, everything we have covered here. Okay, along with that 30 days, I'll be publishing this AWS real-time use cases and best practices as well. Okay, clear, right? This is our Tech with Murali YouTube channel. You can subscribe here so that you will get notification when I publish the videos. Remember one thing, from tomorrow onwards, I'll be publishing videos. Okay, any questions now? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, Instagram, Telegram. Okay, thanks for watching this video. We'll see you next video.